Launch broadcast. I'm Ariane Cornell with Blue Origin. A special hello to all the dads out there on this Father's Day. We're broadcasting live from our West Texas launch site where the launch preparations are well underway. It's a beautiful day down here in Texas. We did have to hold a little bit because of these hot temperatures, but thank you so much for your patience. We think our launch today will make that wait worth it for you. We have some pre-recorded video that you're looking at right now to show you what's already happened earlier today. This is what you're watching out. Currently, it's the rollout of the rocket at about 3 a.m. this morning. I'm here with my colleague this morning, Jeff Huntington, a flight sciences engineer at Blue, and we'll get you acquainted with Blue Origin this morning, our New Shepard program, while also highlighting some of the keys of our mission today.
Good morning. I'm Jeff, a flight sciences engineer here at Blue, and I'll be tracking the procedures from Mission Control to keep you all updated with our progress throughout the launch. As you can see on your screen, we are currently at T-minus 33 minutes and 52 seconds. And the rocket left our vehicle preparation facility on its 2-mile journey to the launch pad. It is currently being transported by our transporter erector.
And this is done early in the morning. It's nice and cool when it rolled out. How long does that take, more or less?
This whole process to go from the vehicle preparation facility to the launch pad takes about an hour.
Because it's a couple miles, right?
It's a couple miles. It's 2 miles. This started at 3 a.m. It was an early start. You can see that the sun had not even come up yet.
And it's a beautiful rocket. You'll see, actually, this is the 4th time that this exact rocket is going to fly into space this morning. It's the same rocket that made our historic landing back in November. And you'll see on the rocket, on the feather, there's some white speck marks. That's from the that's our thermal protection foam that we put on the outside. That is what a rocket that's been reused multiple times looks like.
Looks a little bit worn, but that's how you know it's been to space 3 times previously. What you see there is the transport erector backing up to that launch stand. That big gray thing that's around the rocket, that is our mobile launch stand. In order to have a very efficient launch, what we do is we take part of the launch stand with us and we keep that attached to the rocket. Then as we rotate it to vertical, that connection makes it really easy.
And the red circle that you see on the bottom there, that is our BE3 engine, or our Blue Engine 3. There's one of those that propels our New Shepard rocket. We'll tell you a lot more about that coming up a bit later.
As you can see there, we are slowly rotating that rocket into position. All of this happened at about 3:30 in the morning. You're looking at recorded shots from earlier today. Now, in order to have a very efficient launch, we just have a skeleton crew there. You don't see many people standing around. And that's because we want to be able to rapidly fly this rocket over and over again. And so we've built into the design many things that keep it so you don't need very many people to launch this thing.
Keeping it lean and mean, yeah. It's not just about quick turnaround, it's also about keeping down the costs, right? That's one of the big things we're trying to do here at Blue, not just the reusability of these rockets, but in all of our operations, how do we keep the costs down? If we're going to be sending millions of people to live and work in space, we're going to need to keep the costs down.
You can see the launch tower there. That's the thing just to the right of the rocket. So when there are astronauts that want to board this rocket, what they do is climb up that launch tower. That's a 75-foot tower. On this mission, we're going to have a few payloads. There are 3 university payloads. They got loaded in earlier today.
But to be clear, today it's just the payloads. We're not going to have any astronauts on the rocket. That'll be coming up in the next year or two.
Mm-hmm. You can see that diving board-like platform getting extended out to that crew capsule. That comes out, it's a nice safe platform. Then we open that hatch, we load the payloads in, close up that hatch, and get it ready to go. That all happened just a couple hours ago.
So again, our team here is loading various, again, we've got our liquid oxygen and the liquid hydrogen that's going into the rocket. We also have various umbilicals for power. That's all to get New Shepard warmed up here. At 3 in the morning, you need to be warmed up a little bit more, but by now it's nice and toasty here down in West Texas.
Yeah, here in the desert, it does chill down at night. This was maybe 60 or 70 degrees when this was going on. It's been warming up throughout the day. It is going to be a hot one. There is definitely a heat wave going through most of the country right now.
So again, what you're watching is pre-recorded video of the New Shepard rocket being prepared for launch later this morning. This is, again, earlier today. We rolled it out of the vertical processing facility, or the barn as we also like to call it down here, out towards the launch pad. That's about a 2-mile trip. It was then raised vertically, and now our technicians, since then, they have been connecting in the various umbilicals for power, for propellant, and as we speak, we're continuing to load the various propellants. What you see here are some checks that we have on the drag brakes. That's on the top ring fin. Jeff's going to be telling us a lot more about the booster and the various moving components on it.
Yeah, those are 8 giant doors that deploy. We should hear a sound any minute now. We already heard it, actually. There was a sound of 8 pulses. That is the reaction control system on the booster. We use that when we're in space to control the orientation of the rocket. That test for the booster was done earlier today. We're going to do a similar test on the crew capsule in just a few minutes. About maybe 15 minutes we'll have a similar test. You'll get to hear that one as well. There's a shot of the aft section, and what you can see there is the landing gear coming out. That happens just in the last few seconds. Right now we're doing a test of all these systems. We want to make sure that these systems are fully operational before we actually lift off.
And those 4 kind of cylinders that you see at the base there, those are crushable portions that we have on the bottom, on the feet, if you will, of the landing gear. And that's going to absorb that last bit of energy. It's kind of like that front portion of your car that's supposed to be crushable in an accident. What you want to do is take that last minute energy out of the system.
All right, we're currently sitting at T-minus 26 minutes and 17 seconds. I'm checking in with mission control, and it looks like things are going well. We have powered up the crew capsule as well as the booster. Propellants are being loaded.
Again, a beautiful shot of the New Shepard rocket. As mentioned, this is going to be the 4th time that this exact same rocket has gone into space. Again, a truly reusable rocket here in New Shepard.
As you can see in these pre-recorded shots, it's now getting lighter. This was maybe just an hour or 2 ago. The sun is rising.
Well, Jeff, maybe let's talk a little bit about this reusability and why we're such big fans of it here at Blue Origin. So traditionally, companies spend millions of dollars and many, many man-hours building a new rocket for every single flight. But that's not our plan here at Blue Origin. We spend just a mere fraction of that on refurbishing this rocket. we can actually, I mean, we're talking about low thousands of dollars to refurbish this rocket in between each flight. But reusable rockets are hard, right? Again, the one that you're looking at on your screen is the only one that has, in the history of spaceflight, that has flown into space, come back down, and then flown again multiple times. But because it's so hard, that's why we've decided to start with a suborbital program. With the suborbital program, what we're doing at Blue is we're teaching ourselves how to build these engines, which are deeply throttleable, which is what allows for the controlled, nice, precise landing. We're teaching ourselves how to launch, relaunch, both efficiently and reliably.
One of the things that we're also getting practice on is the software that we use to fly this rocket. The landing algorithms, the boost algorithms, we're really fine-tuning them now with each launch. And those software algorithms, they'll be able to use for any rocket that we fly.
Well, there you go. Well, and then once you, well, you got the hardware, you've got your software down, we got the ops down, and the next thing that we'll end up testing, but teaching ourselves how to do, is sending people into space and bringing that back home, them back home safely. Once you wrap all of that up, what we're going to try to do is then roll those lessons learned into our orbital rocket. And by doing it in a suborbital program, we can practice many, 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 many times. So, in fact, this rocket, we can launch this at least 50 times for the same cost as doing one orbital launch.
Wow.
Today, most organizations, they're flying maybe 12 times a year. We can get so much more practice out of this suborbital program. So at Blue, you know, our philosophy is around our motto, which is gradatum ferociter, and I don't know if you've, when's the last time you've tested your Latin, maybe back in high school, but that means step by step ferociously, and that's precisely what we're doing here with our suborbital program, is we're getting it down pat on our suborbital program, and we're going to take those lessons and that design, and we're going to roll it into the orbital program, which hopefully we'll be flying sometime by the end of the decade. So, Jeff, maybe can you dig a little bit into this beautiful specimen of engineering that we've got here and tell us a little bit more about the technology?
Sure, Ariane, I'd be happy to. So what you see on your screen, that's actually a great shot of the New Shepard rocket. And the New Shepard rocket is really two pieces. You have the crew capsule on top, and that holds 6 astronauts, and that sits atop the single engine booster. They launch vertically, just like you see, and it accelerates for about 2.5 minutes, achieving about 3 Gs of acceleration, 3 times the force of gravity on the way up. That engine shuts down after achieving a speed of about Mach 3, or 3 times the speed of sound. And you'll actually be able to track that speed when we get into the flight. It'll actually show up on your screen. After main engine cutoff, the crew capsule will separate from the booster and quietly coast through space. And they'll achieve an altitude of over 100 kilometers. After a few minutes of weightlessness, the booster will then guide its way back to the landing pad using those aft fins that you can see in that screen right there. Those are the steering fins. We use them on boost and on reentry. The booster will make an autonomously rocket-powered landing, and the capsule will come down under parachutes. And then it will land softly using a retro rocket system just at the last second, just before touchdown.
Well, let's remind ourselves what's happened so far. So what you're looking at is pre-recorded video of the rocket that has rolled out earlier this morning, and we're looking at it on the pad right now. Hello, everybody. We're looking at a live shot now of the Blue Origin New Shepard rocket here at our West Texas facility with 20 minutes to go before liftoff. Once again, welcome to all our viewers from around the globe to the first ever Blue Origin launch webcast I'm Ariane Cornell with Blue Origin, and joining me today to help describe all the exciting aspects of our launch today, the New Shepard program and Blue Origin, is Jeff Huntington.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff, an engineer here at Blue. It's currently 9:15 a.m. Central Time. The temperature is heating up. We're just over 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but it is shaping up to be a great day for launching rockets. We're currently at T-minus 19 minutes and 34 seconds, as you can see in the upper right corner of your screen. The temperature is definitely okay for a launch. It's a little bit hot, but we can tolerate it. The ground winds have an average of about 8 miles per hour with gusts up to 10 miles per hour. Definitely tolerable. The upper level winds are also within the limits. Right now I'm looking through the launch procedures. Things are proceeding as planned, and I see no constraints to today's flight.
Wonderful. Well, hey, Jeff, as mentioned, this is the 4th time that we're sending this exact same rocket into space. And that's why we're particularly excited to watch this beautiful specimen of engineering go again. But all of it is part of a test campaign that we have for New Shepard before putting astronauts on the rocket. But that doesn't mean we're not pushing the system, right? And today's no exception. Our test today, what we're going to do is purposefully only let out 2 of the 3 parachutes to test the robustness of our system.
That's right, Ariane. This test is a test of our backup systems that we put on top of the crew capsule. We've designed this system to have several levels of redundancy, and beyond the parachutes, we also have redundancy in our separation systems and our attitude control thrusters. Those are the thrusters that we use to keep the capsule oriented vertically. The landing retro thrusters, that's what's used in the last second before touchdown. The flight computers and the power systems, they all have redundant systems to help keep our astronauts safe. And when it comes to the parachutes, we actually only need 1 of the 3 parachutes to be deployed in order to keep our astronauts safe.
Well, and obviously we don't intend for that to happen, but we obviously have built New Shepard so that everything performs well. But malfunctions do happen, and we want to make sure that our system, again, is robust. And for that, nothing beats an in-flight test like today.
Right, and history is a perfect example here because Apollo had this exact failure happen back in 1971 on Apollo 15. Those astronauts were coming back from space, and that Apollo capsule had 1 of its parachutes get torn to shreds. So it had 3 parachutes, 1 went out. They had 2 more. It led to a hard splashdown into the water, but it turns out those astronauts were perfectly safe. What we want to do is make sure that our crew capsule is equally robust.
Absolutely. It's rolling in lessons learned from the past into our current designs. But, Jeff, there is a scenario today in which all 3 parachutes will come out.
Yeah, that's the case. We have all 3 parachutes installed and ready to be used. If the crew capsule runs into some trouble, either during the coast phase or maybe during re-entry, there is a chance that it could decide to deploy all 3 parachutes. What we don't want to do is stack multiple failures up on top of each other. We really want to preserve this hardware. All right, let's check back in with Mission Control to see where they're at. It's T-minus 16 minutes and 17 seconds. I see that the crew capsule is getting ready to test its attitude control system. This is, again, a built-in test to make sure that the system is operating nominally before we launch. When I mean nominally, that just means everything is working as expected.
Well, and Jeff, so again, while we're not going to put astronauts on New Shepard today, maybe we can talk a little bit about what it would be like if we were floating around out there. So this crew capsule has 530 cubic feet of space. That's over 10 times what Alan Shepard had back in 1961 when he took his Mercury flight. That means when astronauts are up there, when you and I are up there, you've got all this room to turn somersaults and really enjoy the freedom of space up there. But that's not the only place where we've designed this capsule really for that astronaut experience. If you look at the capsule, we have 6 windows, giant windows. These are the largest windows that will have ever flown in space. They're over 1,000 inches squared. And when you add up all 6 of that, over a third of that capsule is windows. So when you and I are floating up there in space, it's going to feel like you are floating in space.
I think you have no idea how badly I want to fly on this right now.
But so if you look up on the windows today, the windows that you see up there, they're painted on, but to give you a size of the scale. The next capsule, the next iteration of this capsule, will have the real windows, which we've tested extensively. They're multi-paned and fracture tough, but they're also super clear, super pristine. So when you're floating out up in space, you're going to get this, the beautiful views of the curvature of the Earth, the blackness of the space, the colors of the land popping back at you. It's going to be an absolutely mind-blowing experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to decide to spend more time looking out or just doing somersaults inside the crew capsule.
I might toss some M&Ms at you, or I don't know, potato chips, Homer Simpson style.
Maybe
whatever.
some kind of experiment. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you have 4 minutes to really appreciate and take in all of that, all of the beauty, and also to play around in the freedoms of zero G. So just as a recap, you're looking at live shots of our New Shepard rocket here in West Texas. We're about 13 and a half minutes ago until launch. This is the 4th flight of this New Shepard rocket. Again, a truly reusable rocket.
Let's check in with the procedures one more time. We're at T-minus 13 minutes and 11 seconds. The crew capsule is coming along nicely. It is getting ready for that attitude control system test. The booster has loaded all of its propellants, and keep in mind for this rocket, the propellants are liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. They're just topping them off right now and chilling in the rest of the vehicle.
So that liquid oxygen and the liquid hydrogen is going to be powering that BE3 engine that we were talking about a little bit earlier, Jeff. And what makes that engine so unique is its throttle ability. So we can, as you're going up towards space, jamming out 110,000 pounds of thrust. But then when we come back to land, we pull back the thrust, and we have the ability to go down as far as 20,000 pounds of thrust. And it's that entire spectrum that we can use. We've got that entire window to use upon landing. Because when it's coming back, it's basically like an empty fuel tank. You don't want that thrust. You don't need that thrust. And so that's what allows for such a nice, precise, controlled landing of New Shepard. What you're also seeing on the capsule right now is our big, beautiful Blue Origin feather. It has some white specks on it. Again, that's what a reused rocket that's been into space looks like. What that is we've, on the refurbishment, we've touched up that thermal protection foam that's on the outside. As part of the refurbishment, what we've also done is we replaced some of those crushable portions that we were talking about a little bit earlier. We've updated the software with some of our lessons learned, and also for new trajectories. And we've also repacked the chute. So it's really minimal processes that we need. So just
looks like we're coming up on T-minus 11 minutes. The crew capsule is still in work on its tests, and propellant conditioning is still occurring on the rocket. Mission Control is going through final checkouts here in the last 10 minutes.
Just briefly, the crew capsule, we have an escape system in that crew capsule. And what we've done is
we're about to have RCS bit on the crew capsule.
Okay.
Stand by for that. We might be able to hear that.
That's good.
Now, once again, that is just a test of that system to make sure everything is fully operational We test all of these things right before flight, make sure the rocket is ready to go. I'm hearing from Mission Control that that test was successful. The next thing we'll do on the crew capsule is test the escape system. It's about to do its built-in test. That escape system, we want to make sure it has a thorough checkout, go through all of its processes, make sure it can operate as expected should we need it.
Absolutely, and that escape system, as I was just about to say, we've got a solid rocket motor in there, and what happens is if we ever detect any issue with the rocket, we've got this full envelope escape system, which means from the moment that the passengers are buckled into their seats through escape, we have the ability to fire that solid rocket motor, and within 2 seconds, 70,000 pounds of thrust comes out and moves that capsule far and fast away from the booster.
It's going to be quite a ride.
It's going to be quite a ride. We've actually already tested that back in 2012, but we're actually going to test it in flight in one of our upcoming test flights.
Right. The first flight of that crew capsule that you see there back in 2012 was that pad escape test. We have great videos of that on our Blue Origin YouTube channel. I definitely encourage you to go check that out. Not right now, of course, because we're at T-minus 8 minutes, but definitely later today. That's another great flight.
Well, Jeff, so while we've got T-minus 8.5 to go, why don't you take us through for a minute or two what makes the rocket take off and land vertically?
Yeah, well, Arian, let's start with the obvious, right? This is rocket science, and it's hard to design a rocket that can actually fly backwards. But we've designed in several features that can help make this job a little easier, and we have an animation that can help show those features in flight. On ascent, the rocket uses a combination of the engine gimbal and those aft steering fins to guide the rocket on the way up. And then the crew capsule separates, revealing that ring fin that you see on the top of the booster. That ring fin plus 4 wedge fins that get deployed in space, they really help stabilize it on reentry. The air flows through that ring fin, and it helps stabilize that rocket just the same way feathers do on an arrow. The next thing we do on the way down, we need to cut that speed, so we deploy those 8 drag brakes. Those are giant doors that open up into the airflow and cut that speed in half. Then that engine relights, roaring back to life, and it slows the vehicle down to about 5 miles an hour right over the pad. Those aft steering fins bring the rocket right to where it needs to be. You have a nice controlled descent.
Again, that's that
with
throttle
that low
ability.
Throttle engine, exactly. Then those landing gear come out, and we touch down nice and softly.
Beautiful. Well, you know, and if viewers are interested, during our last flight, we embedded a camera up near one of those hydrogen vents on the propulsion module, so you can watch what it actually looks like when it's descending. So you can watch the wedge fins come out, those drag brakes, the steering fins, the landing gear. You can watch what it actually did.
All right, this is really exciting now. I'm listening into Mission Control, and they are doing their final go, no-go counts for flight. The flight director has just pulled everyone in the control room, and they are all go for launch. We're at T-minus 6 minutes, and New Shepard is ready to go back into flight.
Well, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in that control room? Who are the teams? I know you've got plenty of experience in there.
Yeah, well, in Mission Control right now, it's a very focused atmosphere. The launch team is basically double-checking and triple-checking all of those sensor readouts, and they're methodically going through these last final procedural steps to ensure that both the crew capsule and the booster both get ready for liftoff at exactly the same time.
Can you tell us a little bit about the team leaders, about the individual teams?
Right, so there's the flight director, and he's the one in charge of the entire operation. And then there's the flight controller. The flight controller is the one sending commands to the booster to get it ready for flight. You'll actually hear his voice later on doing the terminal count. Then there's a corresponding capsule controller, and her job is to send commands to the capsule. Then there's a ground controller, who is in charge of both the launch tower and the landing tower and all other ground systems. And lastly, there's the safety officer, and they really have the important job of making sure that all of us personnel here on site are safe.
Absolutely, and we should note that safety and mission assurance are something that's embedded in the culture at Blue Origin. It's not just here during the launches, but it's every day at Blue.
We are live at T-minus 5 minutes for this 4th flight of the New Shepard hardware. This specific rocket has already been to space 3 times. It's its 4th trip up.
We should note today, Jeff, that, again, no astronauts on today's flight, but we do have payloads that are going to be flying in this capsule. And if our viewers are interested, there are a couple of YouTube videos from the research team where you can learn more about those specific experiments.
I just heard from Mission Control that escape system on the crew capsule has been armed. We don't plan on using it, of course, but it's just one of our backup systems. If something were to go wrong with the booster, we would then practice one of our escapes.
Absolutely. It's kind of like the airbag in your car, right?
Exactly.
It's nice to know that it's there, but hopefully you won't have to use it.
All right, we're now at T-minus 4 minutes. The booster's internal power has just come on. Those research payloads in the crew capsule have just been powered up. And we're coming up on the T-minus 2 minutes auto sequence. These final 2 minutes are a highly choreographed event. A lot of things happen all at the very last minute to make sure that it's all happening, getting ready for that flight. There's too many things to mention, but I'll just highlight a couple of those things. Pressurizing those tanks, there's the oxidizer tank and the fuel tank, both get pressurized. The steering fins and the engine will go through their swing checks. Hopefully we'll get to see that. And then the thrust termination system is another safety system we have on the booster. We will arm that to get it ready. The way that works is if the booster were to start drifting off course a little bit, this would then shut down the engine and bring that booster down somewhere in this wide open desert, and ensure that all the personnel here on the ground are safe. All right, we are at T-minus 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm pumped. This is time.
It's time to just take a breath. I know, I'm definitely pretty excited about this.
Well, the adrenaline is definitely flowing down here in West Texas. Again, it doesn't just stop here at West Texas. We've got our team back in Kent, Washington that we need to send a shout out to. We know that they're watching here live. We've spent many, many years designing and building this rocket, designing these test flights. And so that's what makes this so exciting, right? We get to see our baby fly. But at the same time, we have to balance this risk and reward. We want to push the envelope so that we're learning. If we go too easy, we don't get to get any learnings out of these test flights.
I hear we just entered a very brief hold at T-minus 15 seconds. It should be less than 30 seconds, so stay with us. Engineering has confirmed they are ready for that 2-minute auto sequence start. They have just cleared the hold, and we are continuing with the countdown live at T-minus 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
Jeff, with 2 minutes to go before launch, why don't we switch it over to the pad audio so we can watch the proper star of this show, New Shepard.
That is the real star.
Watch her come alive.
T-minus 2 minutes.
Again, you're watching a live shot of our New Shepard rocket. We're just moments away from the launch of our New Shepard rocket, the 4th flight of this exact same rocket.
T-minus 1 minute. What you see on your screen on the left-hand side is an altitude bar. It's going to highlight a couple key events that happened as the booster goes up. And you can see that speed indicator showed up on the right-hand side, so you can follow along with how fast this rocket is going. T-minus 30 seconds and counting.
All right, Jeff. It's time to hand this show over to Mission Control so we can listen in on the final countdown.
Let's do it.
Let's light this candle.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1. And S4 has cleared the tower.
That was a beautiful launch of our New Shepard rocket here from West Texas. You're watching live.
5,000 feet and climbing.
Coming up in a couple seconds here, we'll hit max Q. This is the point where the aerodynamic stresses on the vehicle are at its max.
15,000 feet.
There we've hit max Q.
We're about to go supersonic, meaning we're breaking through that sound barrier right now. On the left-hand side, you can see that blue bar filling up. That's your altitude indicator. You can see we still have a long way to go to get to space. "50,000 feet. We are still accelerating at full throttle right now.
Looks like a beautiful burn on that BE3 engine. You got a nice shot right there.
You don't see much of a plume with this engine, and that's because the propellants are liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. So it's actually a very clean burn. We've now passed Mach 2. 100,000 feet, about 30 seconds away from main engine cutoff, or MECO.
Again, you're watching our live launch broadcast. It's the 4th flight of this New Shepard rocket.
We're now at Mach 3, 150,000 feet.
And there we go. We've hit MECO. Main engine cutoff.
Right on target. 200,000 feet and climbing. Separation should be coming up shortly.
And there it is, separation.
Separation confirmed from both vehicles. We're just under 3 minutes into this launch.
So now they're cruising as 2 individual crafts. They're going to keep heading up towards apogee.
You can start to see the 2 bodies right there in your view. The crew capsule is the one to the slight right, and the booster is on the left there.
Jeff, at this point, if you were there in the crew capsule, you're going to start feeling that weightlessness. You're going to start to unbuckle, do your somersaults.
Start doing somersaults. Look out that window. You can definitely see the blackness of space from there. Now, even though they're still going up, they do feel weightlessness. They're effectively in a free fall, so they can do whatever they want. If there were astronauts on board. Right now, we have those research payloads on board. Those research missions have started. They're probably getting some great data right now.
You get some really clean micro Gs with the trajectory of our New Shepard rocket.
Several minutes of micro G, which really you can't get any other way unless you get up here.
All right, we've hit apogee.
331,500 feet for the apogee.
That's well over 100 kilometers over that Kármán line, over that internationally recognized line of space.
Congratulations, New Shepard. You just took your 4th trip back into space for this rocket. Everything is looking great right now.
At this point, That booster and the crew capsule are going to start descending.
Yep, they're already on their way down. It's still a weightless environment, though. They have not really hit the atmosphere, so they can still do their experiments. We have about 1 more minute of weightlessness before that booster will start hitting the atmosphere. Booster's at 240,000 feet on its way down. You can see that speed indicator is really climbing up. It is definitely accelerating back towards the ground.
So the crew capsule is also coming down, and actually
Forward fins just deployed really quickly on the booster.
what might be slightly counterintuitive to our audience is you actually, the peak Gs that you get while an astronaut in that crew capsule comes during descent. You're going to peak at about 5 Gs just momentarily.
And very briefly. The booster is actually hitting its pierce point. It's about to re-enter the atmosphere. This is the point where it can actually start steering back to that landing pad. It's using those aft steering fins to guide its way back. You can definitely see that those wedge fins have been deployed.
Again, that's adding stability to the rocket, makes it want to come down naturally.
It's slowing
upright.
down now. You might be able to hear a sonic boom coming back as it dives back down through the sound barrier. 30,000 feet altitude. Those drag brakes should be deploying soon. There they go. You can see them. Nice and clean.
Watch how it's cutting that speed.
10,000 feet. That engine should be relighting soon. 5,000 feet. There's that engine relight. 1,000 feet. Landing gear deployed. 5 miles per hour. Amazing, another picture-perfect landing for New Shepard rocket booster. Let's cut over to the crew capsule because it's about to deploy its parachutes.
What a beautiful landing. You see that control, that hover? And there we go. We've got the 2 drogue chutes which have deployed.
That means we are executing the primary mission of today's flight, which was to test the redundancy with our parachutes.
Next should be the mains. You see a little bit of oscillation there on the capsule, but that's to be expected.
That will damp out. Yeah, that's not something to worry about. That crew capsule is about 14,000 feet right now.
Again, you're watching a live launch and landing of the New Shepard vehicle. This is the 4th time that it's gone into space and landed. And we're just waiting for our crew capsule to descend here. We're testing a 1 chute out.
Those main parachutes should be deploying soon, and that should help with the coning that you see, that kind of oscillation. There go the main parachutes. You can see how it's damped out nicely. And those 2 parachutes are inflating right now. You can see that the speed has dropped down to just 20 miles an hour. Full inflation on both of those.
Beautiful.
There's almost no motion with that crew capsule anymore. That's a great ride.
There you see the hills of West Texas there in your background. If you're an astronaut coming down, you're going to see the Earth coming back at you.
It's 1,000 feet off the ground. There's going to be that retro rocket system that fires just in the last second before touchdown. Keep in mind it does kick up a lot of dust here in the West Texas desert. It looks like a hard landing, but really it just is a soft, pillowy touchdown at about 1 or 2 miles an hour. And that's coming up in about 15 seconds. We should see that happen. 10 seconds to touchdown. 100 feet.
Touchdown.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Picture perfect. That's exactly what we want.
Oh, that was magic. Well, Jeff, what is next for the capsule and the booster here?
Both vehicles are now going through their auto-safing sequences. This is an autonomous procedure to make those, both the booster and the capsule, safe for people approaching. There are recovery teams being sent to the capsule and as well to the booster to clear up those parachutes, pack them all up, and get both vehicles back in the barn so we can just fly it again.
Absolutely. Well, it was an impeccable mission, test mission for us. Again, our New Shepard rocket, our reusable rocket, went into space, came back, landed beautifully under that controlled landing.
That was as good as we could have hoped for.
Driven by that BE-3 engine, that throttle ability.
I can't wait to look at that data, but you know, that's a pretty clean data set.
That is a pretty clean data set. But then we also had the purpose of this test mission, which was testing that one chute out for the crew capsule to test the robustness of the system. There's nothing like an in-flight test to make sure that we understand it.
And we'll continue to push the envelope. This isn't the last test of a safety system that we'll do. Coming up in sometime soon here,
right.
They will do another test of the in-flight escape system. That's going to be a very exciting test.
Well, Jeff, so let's review some of the mission highlights that we have here. So we launched at 9:36 a.m. Central Time. We hit an apogee of 331,501 feet. Our booster touched down at 9:44 a.m. Central Time. And just a minute later, we had the capsule touchdown at 9:45 a.m. The capsule again demonstrated that the safe recovery of the crew capsule under the 2 chutes as opposed to the normal 3, but again, tested some of those backup systems that we had going.
What a day this has made. This definitely made my Father's Day, I gotta say.
Absolutely. Well, I know that our team back in Kent, Washington is probably running to their computers to start crunching that data. But as we get prepared for the next flight, we're going to take in all of that information. Again, keep learning. That's what we're about here at Blue. Keep pushing the envelope and get ready for that next flight. Well, Jeff, until then, thank you so much for all of your insights today.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure. You know, any day with a rocket landing is a fantastic day.
I hear you. Well, on behalf of all the hardworking team at Blue Origin, thank you for joining us today, everybody on the internet, for our live broadcast of our New Shepard rocket flight. If you're interested in learning more and keeping up to date with our progress, please be sure to sign up on our website for email updates. This concludes our live stream broadcast. My name is Ariane Cornell. It's been a pleasure to be your host. And until next time, Gradatum Ferociter.